morning. How we doing? Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, just making sure everything is good to go on the computer. Happy Monday. It's the first day of June, which is hard to believe, right? But it is. Here we are. So, good morning. Please say hi in the comments. I'd love to say hi back. Make my light a little less tense. Right now. A little bit better. So, good morning. Did you all have a good weekend? Did you do anything fun? Izzy is here wearing a unicorn horn. Oh my goodness, that sounds very fun. Thanks for telling me that, Izzy. And hi Naomi, Daniel, and Nutmeg. I like that there's always at least one of the cats in the mix. So awesome. I think we're gonna get started in just a second. It looks like you guys are gone. Just making sure everything is good. Hold on. All right. There we go. All right. So, the story I want to tell you about today about someone named Esther. So I was wondering, did you know that in the Bible there are stories about queens and princesses? Most of the time we hear about King David, it's a big king, and Solomon, and then we hear about some bad kings in the time of Jesus. But sometimes it's hard to find stories of what women are doing in the Bible. And so I wanted to share the story of Esther with you because I think it's really cool. And I thought it would be good. So I wanted to share this. We're going to read it from one book, but I wanted to share this picture with you because this is the one where she really looks like a princess. She's got a crown. She's got this really cool dress on. So she becomes a queen. We'll find more about that in a second. So, but that's one of our pictures I wanted to share today. So this is it's called Esther, a New Queen. It has some questions to start off for us to think about as we hear the story. Have you ever done something when you were angry and later you were sorry that you did it? Maybe you threw a toy when it didn't work right, or perhaps you tore up a picture that you were drawing. And later you wanted to play with the toy or you wanted to work on the picture some more, but it was too late. I actually don't know how to say this guy's name, so we're going to say King Adam. It's Ahasuerus. Daniel, you could probably do it better than I could. But King Adam, we'll just say that for now, had a similar problem. The king finally calmed down after he took the crown from Vashti. Oh my goodness. So sorry. It started too late. Okay. Here we go. So it starts off with a woman named Vashti, and then we get into Esther, okay? Still the same king, though. So King Adam ruled over the land from Ethiopia to India. He liked to have parties to show how rich and important he was. One time he had a party for all the generals and governors of the lands around him, and it lasted for 180 nights. It's a long party. But one party wasn't enough. When it was over, he had another party. To this one, he invited the men of Susa, where his royal palace was. The party was in the beautiful courtyard. The marble pillars were draped with expensive blue cloth held up by silver rings. The floor glimmered with beautiful colored stones. And at the same time, the wife of the king, Queen Vashti, gave a party for the women of Susa. They were in another part of the palace where the women of the court lived. On the 7th night of this party, the king was feeling pretty good. He wanted to show off his beautiful queen, and he sent 7 servants to get Queen Vashti. The king says you have to come to him and wear your crown. He wants all the men to see what a beautiful queen he has. Vashti knew it was dangerous not to obey the king, but she was having her own party. She gave the servants a message for the king: I will not come. When the king got Queen Vashti's message, he was angry. He said to his advisors, this cannot be. No one can refuse the king's command. What can I do? The advisors huddled and talked, and they said to King Adam, the queen cannot be allowed to do this. If our wives find out that the queen did not obey the king, they will stop listening to us. You must remove the crown from Vashti. Send word to all the people of your kingdom that she is no longer your queen. And that is what the king did. Meanwhile, Vashti never had to come to the king again. So that's kind of the context of our story. There's the king having this really loud party, and there's the queen saying, nope, no thank you. I don't want to be shown off like that. King Adam finally calmed down after he took the crown from Vashti, but now he wanted a queen and he didn't have one. Some young men servants suggested a plan. Why don't you gather at the palace all the beautiful young women who aren't married and put them in the care of Haggai, who is in charge of the women's quarters. He can get them ready so you can choose one of them to be a queen in place of Vashti. The king liked the idea, so some of his servants went through the realm to find beautiful young women. One of these women was Esther. And so there they are getting potential queens ready. Her mother and father had died, and her cousin Mordecai took care of her. He said, Esther, don't tell anyone at the palace that you are a Jew. So the people who live in the palace are a different people. They believe different things. And Esther was a Jewish person. So Haggai liked Esther right away. He believed that she was beautiful and also kind. He made sure that she had the best of everything, from beauty treatments to food. Every day, Mordecai walked back and forth in front of the women's quarter so that he could see how Esther was doing. After 1 year, the beautiful young women were to go before the king. The women went into the king one at a time. If she wasn't chosen, she went to the second women's quarters, where she would live. When the king saw Esther, she won his love immediately. The king placed the queen's crown on Esther's head, and then he had a huge feast in her honor and declared a holiday. Long live Queen Esther. So there's Esther becoming queen. Vashti was brave to refuse the king, and now Esther has her chance to be brave. Haman was the highest official in the king's court. A law said that everyone had to bow down to him. Mordecai, Esther's cousin, would not do that. He bowed down only to God. Haman was furious. He got the king to let him write a law that anyone who didn't bow down to Haman would die. When Mordecai heard about this law, he tore his clothes and he cried. He knew that he and all the other Jews were in big trouble because they would only bow down to God. Mordecai sent word to Esther that she had to help her people. But Esther said, I have not been called to come to the king for 30 days. If you go to the king when he hasn't called for you, you will die. Mordecai sent Esther another message. Esther, don't think that you are safe because you are the queen. Maybe you are in the palace just so that you can save your people. Now is the time to be brave. So Esther had a plan. She invited the king and Mordecai to dinner, but she didn't say anything to the king about the new law. That night, the king couldn't sleep. A servant read from a book about a time when Mordecai saved the king's life. The king asked, what has been done for Mordecai? When he heard that nothing had been done for him, the king decided it was time to honor Mordecai. The king asked Haman, what should I do to honor a faithful person? Haman thought the king was going to honor him. So he said, dress him in a royal robe and have him ride through Susa on your horse. And so the king ordered that this would be done for Mordecai. Haman knew that he was in big trouble now. When the two men came for dinner the second night, the king asked, what can I do for you, Esther? Esther said, please save my life and the lives of my people. The king didn't understand. Esther explained about the new law that Haman had written. Now the king was angry, but he couldn't take away the law. Instead, he told Esther that her people could protect themselves, and they did, but Haman died. From that time until today, Jews celebrate the story of brave Queen Esther with drama, special food, and games on Purim, which is in the late winter or early spring. So there's another picture of Esther. And there's a picture of Esther having this conversation with the king and getting him to agree to help her people. And so Jewish people still celebrate Purim, and it kind of, sometimes it looks like Halloween. They wear costumes. They have loud, noisemakers that they use. There's special snacks called hamantashen, which would look like Haman's hat. So I wanted to share that story with you because I think Esther was really brave, and she stood up for people who weren't being treated right, and they were scared. And I think that was really cool. So I wanted to share that story with you, partly because it's fun to have a story about a queen and a princess, and partly because Esther stood up for her people in a really meaningful way. And Vashti stood up for herself too. So there are lots of really cool women in the Bible, and I wanted to share that with you today. Happy Monday. Happy June. I hope that you all have a wonderful day. We'll see you here tomorrow at 9:30 for more stories. Get out and enjoy some sunshine today, okay? All right. Take care. Have a good day.